Hello. For tonight's Grizzly Tale, I'm going to read you a story from More Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. These are cautionary tales that I wrote for lovers of squeam. Tonight's story is called Dirty Bertie. Parent warning. This tale contains filthy, dirty language. Please ensure that your sensitive and shockable parents are fully protected. Make them wear earplugs. Mr. and Mrs. Bath used to laugh about their name sounding like Bath. No one else ever found this funny, but they did, because they were two of the cleanest people on the planet, taking 3 baths a day. They kept a neat and tidy house as well, with labels and rotors and sofas covered in wiped-down plastic to ward off dust. "Dirt is the devil," Mrs. Bath had informed her husband on their wedding night. "Cleanliness is next to godliness, husband, and let us pray that we never forget it." They were Christian, God-fearing folk who believed that polishing and dusting got you a backstage pass into heaven. Imagine their horror, then, when their only son, Bertie, turned out to be a juvenile hobo, a grimy, filthy, unwashed dirt magnet whose hatred of water exceeded that of a cat in a sax. They wanted a child who scrubbed up well for church, whose skin shone like a polished apple, whose ears squeaked, whose nails gleamed, whose teeth sparkled, and whose clean clothes smelt as sweet as butterscotch clouds in a marshmallow sky. What they actually got was a slurry pit on legs, dry, empty baths, and moth-eaten flannels. Bertie was dirty. Soap was his sworn enemy. Shampoo was witch spit. Toothpaste was squeezed from the slime hole of a slug, or so Bertie thought. His toothbrush was only ever used to scrape squashed worms off the soles of his trainers. His hairbrush was never used at all. It gathered dust under his bed until 6 orphaned hedgehogs stole it in the mistaken belief that it was their dead mother. As a result, his hair looked like a fur ball that a cat had coughed up. The insides of his ears looked like last year's guacamole, green and crusty, and certainly not something you dip a corn chip in. His fingernails were as black as a peat bog. His top lip was covered in a flaky crust of hardened nose drip. A selection of winter vegetables blossomed in the compost behind his ears. His armpits were long overdue a visit from Rent-A-Kill, and his feet were slimier than a bucket of buttered tadpoles. As for his clothes, they never went near the washing machine, and bear in mind that this was a boy to whom food stuck. Chocolate chips, tomato ketchup, sausage skins, jam, anchovies, raisins, milkshake, ratatouille, peanut butter, fruit pie, Stilton and ice cream all played their part in creating the psychedelic design down the front of his t-shirt and jeans. He looked like a hippie and smelled like a goat. Stink clouds followed him down the street, curling the corners of paving slabs like old sandwiches, wilting lampposts and dissolving queues in the twitch of a nose. One thing Dirty Bertie had no problem getting hold of was a hot fish supper, because whenever he entered the fish and chip shop, every other customer left. Getting dirty was not a problem for Bertie. Like most boys, he was born with the skill already in him, but staying dirty required consummate professionalism. To avoid the use of the cursed water, Bertie did what any normal boy would do when confronted with a bath he didn't want. Bertie rang the council and told them he'd just been rushed by a huge plague-carrying rat. The bathroom was then closed, and 16 workmen arrived to search for Bertie's lie. And of course, while 16 workmen were standing around shaking their heads and drinking tea, nobody could get into the bathroom, let alone take a bath. "Oh, please have a bath?" pleaded his father one day. He'd just been handing out clothes pegs to their niffed-off neighbours. "If you do, Bertie, you can walk on the carpet and sit on the sofa. How's that for a treat?" "I can't bathe today," replied his smutty son. "Why not?" wailed his mother. "Why does water give you the willies?" "Rabies!" shrieked his father out of the blue. "Oh, it's classic. The boy has aquaphobia, a fear of water brought on by rabies." "I have a fear of drowning my pets," corrected Bertie. Pets? Dirty Bertie laid his wild mop of hair on the kitchen table and shook his head. A cloud of insects rose from the tangled strands like birds in a cornfield, frightened by gunshot. Fleas and lice were followed out of the bush by a family of ladybirds, 2 kissing stag beetles, a snail, a nesting house martin with a twig in its beak, 3 worms, an old tramp shoe, a pedal, and a startled mouse with a towel round its waist. Bertie's mother leapt onto a chair and shrieked, while his father tucked his trousers into his socks to foil any insect infestation. Mrs. Bath had reached the end of her tether. "If God had meant us to be dirty, he wouldn't have given us washable skins," she told Bertie. "Well, he should have made us out of plastic then," Bertie replied. "He should have covered us in anoraks all over." The house martin flapped out of his hair and flew off for worms. "Oh, Bertie, think of your future," urged his mother. "People won't give you a job if you're dirty." "Rubbish," he scoffed. "There are plenty of jobs for dirty people." "Really?" said his father. "I'd be interested to hear what they are." Bertie hadn't thought. Farmers?" His father shook his head. "I'm afraid not. Farmers' wives make them take a bath." "Coal miners, then?" "Not coal miners either. Pit bosses always make them shower with the ponies." "All right," said Bertie defiantly. "Footballers. Footballers get dirty?" "Well, some do," smiled his father smugly. "But they've all got rich rock-star girlfriends who make them scrub up in tubs of champagne." "You see," said his mother triumphantly, "nobody likes a dirty Bertie. If you want to get on in this world, you have to be clean." Bertie grinned slyly. A brainwave had occurred. "Not if you're an astronaut," he said. It was a masterstroke of quick thinking, and by the look on his parents' faces, Bertie knew that he'd outboxed them. "Astronauts aren't clean, Mother. Did you know?" he sniggered, in that dirty way that boys do when they wrinkle their noses like pug dogs with colds. "Astronauts don't even take their suits off when they go to the loo." "You don't really want to be an astronaut?" shrieked his father. "Oh, I do," said Bertie, now digging his heels in. "I've always wanted to fly rockets into space. I've always wanted to zap and beam and stardate my log. And I've always wanted to vaporize bug-eyed monsters with purple lump guns. Astronauting's my ideal job. In fact, I've heard that unless you smell like a dead badger, they won't let you in." And with that, Dirty Bertie, his mind now turned to matters Martian, unlocked the back door and went outside to build himself a space rocket. He used the potting shed as a cockpit, a large plastic ice cream, stolen from the roof of an ice cream van and rammed through the shed roof, as a nose cone, and his mother's rotating washing line, next door's satellite dish, and a police car's hubcap as communication antennae. He cut pictures of planets out of an expensive encyclopedia and stuck them in the shed windows to give himself a realistic view. And he ran an extension cable from his parents' bedroom and used their telephone as his link to mission control, which just happened to be a takeaway pizza restaurant seconds down the road. Meanwhile, Indoors, while Dirty Bertie was blasting planets, saving alien princesses, liquidating robots, pulverizing pirates, and scoffing pizzas in a parallel universe, his parents came up with a foolproof plan to break their son of his dirty habit. "We'll find him a girlfriend," said his father. "If love doesn't smarten him up, nothing will." Then they put an advert in the local paper and sat back to wait for the doorbell to ring. "Girlfriend wanted for church-going boy with loving parents. All candidates to turn up at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning for a gander at the goods." At 9:45 a.m. the following Saturday, there was an all-too-familiar ring to the conversation. "Oh, why won't you let me tidy you up?" whined Bertie's mother. "I'm an astronaut," said Bertie. "I follow the astronaut's creed. Can't wash, won't wash. But no girl's going to love you smelling like a dust cart." The first girl was wearing her party dress and flounced into the room in a flutter of frills and bows. But when she saw Bertie, she screamed and ran out again. The second girl had thick pebble glasses and a glistening brace on her teeth. When she saw Bertie, she smiled. This time it was Bertie who screamed and ran out. The third girl took one look at the cloud of flies that buzzed around Bertie's dirty hair and fell to the floor in a dead faint. On her way home, she told the paramedic in the ambulance that she thought the boy was dead. The fourth girl never made it through the door. She hated gerbils, and that's what she thought she could smell. The fifth girl saw the fourth girl being sick in a hedge and didn't come in. And the sixth girl, well, the sixth girl wasn't a girl. Come to think of it, it wasn't a boy either. Bertie opened the front door. His parents were too busy spraying the sitting room with air freshener, and discovered to his astonishment that the person ringing the bell was none other than himself. His jaw must have hit the front step because the lookalike laughed. "Sorry," it said. "Thoughtless, I know, but I had to borrow somebody's body in a rush, and I saw yours through the window." "Who are you?" goldfished Bertie. "Oh, can't stand out here chatting," said the all-too-familiar stranger, pushing his way in and shutting the door. "They're out there now. They were just behind me, trying to find a hover spot for their space wagon." "Are you an escaped lunatic?" asked Bertie. "No, I'm a chameleon," came the reply. "From Tharg. Name's Pig." He extended an arm which mutated as Bertie went to shake it. As the bones in the creature's face stretched and twisted into an altogether lumpier configuration, the arm turned green like a giant squid's tentacle. Gone was Bertie's mirror image. In its place stood Pig Alien, half reptile, half kangaroo, half deep-sea blob. Bertie could not take it all in. "Tharg," he stumbled. That's in, where was Tharg? In Scotland, right? No, in the 14th astral belt of Zimian. I thought every astronaut knew that." "Sorry," gasped Bertie. "Astronaut? Well, you are an astronaut, aren't you? I mean, you're certainly dirty enough to be one. You smell like one." That was the nicest thing anyone had ever said to Bertie. I mean, that is your space rocket in the garden." "Oh, no, said Bertie, "that's not real." "Well, of course it's real," said Pig Alien, "but that's why I'm here." "No," said Bertie, "it's a shed." "Oh, mine's crashed. I have to borrow yours to get home in a hurry." "But I'm not an astronaut," protested Bertie for the last time. "I'm just Dirty Bertie, and my dad'll kill me if you take his shed." Pig Alien tapped a small flashing watch on his wrist. "They're here," he said, slapping a weapon that looked like a whisk into Bertie's hand. "Only use that if you have to. Let's go." "Go?" said Bertie. "Where? What is this?" While they ran to Bertie's space rocket, or rather while Bertie ran and the alien glooped, leaving puddles of slime in its wake. Pig Alien told Bertie why he was being chased. "Disco fever," he said. "A complete misunderstanding. I was at a disco in Tharg. It was dark. I snogged completely the wrong girl. When the lights came back on, I discovered that the object of my passion was 940 years old. She had a face like a bag of spanners, and she was rotting. Her arm came off in my hand." But Bertie wasn't listening. "I'm not an astronaut," he said. "Being dirty, that's just who I am. I'm Dirty Bertie." Pig Alien hauled open the shed door and surveyed the cockpit, which comprised 2 garden forks, an upturned hover mower, and a deck chair set to face the muddy window. "Oh, God preserve us," groaned Pig, picking up a plant pot. "Put this helmet on. When we put this old tub through its paces, things may get a bit bumpy." "But sheds don't fly," pleaded Bertie as the alien rammed the flower pot over his ears. "So, anyway," the alien continued, "I told this rotten hag, Putrid, her name was, that I never wanted to see her again. Unfortunately, she screamed and said that I was just like all the others, and that was when her 2 brothers appeared and told me I'd offended their family. Turns out they're space mafia, fingers in every pie in the sky, and now I've got a choice. Marry the alien dog or die. That's why you've got to fly me out of here." "But I'm not an astronaut," whimpered Bertie, "and this is a shed." Back indoors, having freshened the sitting room air to their satisfaction, Bertie's parents had just stepped into the hall when the front door burst off its hinges and pinned them to the floor. "Where is he?" slurped the ugly old crone at the front door. Spit drooled from the corners of her mouth as she scratched an itch under her wig and sneezed. Her nose flew off across the hall and landed on a coat peg, nostril down. Her elephantine skin flapped off her shrunken bones like wrinkled curtains. Her body stank of rotting fish and cheap scent. Her face was caked in makeup. It was Putrid, and by her side were 2 large walruses wearing dark glasses and suits. "Where's the ignition switch?" screamed Pig Alien. "Well, it doesn't have one," said Bertie. "Every rocket's got an ignition switch." "Well, this is a shed," blubbed the boy. "I'm not an astronaut." "How about a key?" asked the anxious alien. "If we don't blast off now, there's no saying what those 2 brothers will do to us when they get here." "Us?" squealed Bertie. "But I never kissed anyone." "Oh, come on, who are you trying to kid?" roared the alien, slapping Bertie across the back. "Any astronaut who smells as bad and looks as dirty as you do has got to have done his fair share of kissing." Suddenly, Bertie didn't want to be dirty anymore. He was giving the wrong impression. But that was nothing to the impression he was just about to give. When the shed door banged open, Pig Alien and Bertie were looking the other way, but they knew who it was. They could smell her. They swung round and saw, framed in the doorway between 2 henchmen, the silhouette of a 2-metre walnut whip. It was only when Putrid shuffled forward and the light from the window fell across her face that Bertie got an eyeful of the full horror. Her skin was flapping off in strips. Cream-coloured bone was clearly visible, and through the hole where her nose should have been, he could see daylight. She had wooden teeth that clacked in her mouth and limbs that were either nailed to her body or stuck back on with sticking plaster. Her clothes were shredded, her eyeballs kept popping out of her sockets, and a constant stream of goo dripped from a hole in her neck and dribbled to the floor. She was, without doubt, the ugliest, most repulsive, most sickening specimen that Bertie had ever seen. She quite liked him, though. "I'm sorry," whimpered Pig Alien as Putrid and her brothers stepped forward. "I didn't mean to upset you." "Shut it," growled one of the brothers. "Do we take him?" "No," commanded his slurrified sister. "Why would I marry him," she pointed at Pig Alien, "when I could have him?" Her finger moved across the shed and picked out Bertie. "Yum, yum," she slurped. "He's a dreamboat." "A dreamboat?" Bertie flew into a blind panic. "No, I'm not. Stay away." He pointed the whisk at the Mafia. "Do you have any idea what this thing can do?" "Whisk eggs?" giggled Putrid, whipping the kitchen utensil out of his hand. "Oh, do stop playing hard to get." "But I'm not a dreamboat. I'm Dirty Bertie. I smell like a warthog." "Yes, you do, don't you? You're deliciously dirty," said the monstrous crone, fluttering her eyelids so fast that they flew off the front of her face. "You smell like a scrummy cesspit." Her thick yellow tongue licked her greasy grey lips with a salacious slurp. "Boys, I think I'm in heaven. I'm in love, and I've changed my mind." Bertie's eyes stuck out like organ stops. "No, don't say it," he cried. But she did. "Take Dirty Bertie instead." It was a foul piece of luck. If Bertie hadn't been dirty, the alien love Nan would never have fancied him. If he hadn't stunk like a skunk, she'd have taken Pig Alien instead. But as it was, the Walrus brothers kidnapped Dirty Bertie and took him back to Tharg to marry Putrid. And that is where he remains to this day, still as dirty as ever. The only difference now is that Bertie would willingly take a bath if it would just stop his wife Putrid from kissing him. Back at home, Mr. and Mrs. Barth found an alien in the garden shed. "Oh, where's Bertie?" shrieked Mrs. Barth. "He's upstairs taking a bath," lied Pig Alien. "I'll just go up and get him." And when Bertie stepped out of the bathroom 5 minutes later, he was as clean as a shiny new whistle. And from that day on, Mr. and Mrs. Barth and the chameleon from Tharg lived happily ever after.